There is a specific moment when a brand stops being iconic and starts being overexposed. And most moguls don't see it coming until it's way too late. So today, I'm showing you the exact familiarity trap that was the catalyst for Jennifer Lopez's year from hell and the ripple effect it's still having. With the collapse of her trifecta of projects and JLo Beauty being pulled from the shelves of Sephora, 2024 ended up costing her way more than $20 million. And just wait until you see the desperate retail pivot she had to make to save it all. A move no luxury brand ever wants to resort to. But the financial hit was actually the least of her problems. She lost the one currency an aspirational brand absolutely cannot survive without. And what's crazy is there's even a moment when a Hollywood legend, an absolute icon, tried to do a crisis intervention, but the JLo machine just steamrolled over it. And it was a textbook case of brand blindness. Now, for a personal brand, fatigue is actually scarier than hate or cancellation because it's the moment your fans simply stop caring. What's fascinating too is that on my side of it, the marketing side, we're all so focused on building the brand, getting the visibility, getting traction, more views, more likes, more exposure, more fans, more. It's not less is more, it's more is not enough. And at some point, the marketing machine blinds all of us to the dark side of all of this. Now, if you're new here, I'm Sam Ross. I run a branding agency, and I've watched this exact pattern destroy 8-figure brands again and again. And here's how it starts. It starts with the deadly assumption that because people are looking at you, they actually like what they see. Now, in branding, there is a massive difference between attention and affinity. And JLo herself just spent a ton of money proving just how easy it is to confuse the two. And that's why watching somebody who is a master at using her star power drift into overexposure is fascinating to watch. Now, we've all heard the phrase familiarity breeds contempt. That's the familiarity trap, and it happens when a person becomes so available, so visible, so explained, that the thing that once made it special now makes it kind of annoying. Now, I know we ask a ridiculous amount from our celebrities. Fame demands this nonstop visibility to stay relevant. Keep feeding the machine, give us all the access, and then when we inevitably get sick of you, we resent you for it. It's pretty unfair. And it's a very fine line to walk because brand power needs restraint. And the internet rewards the exact opposite. So in this weird way, JLo was caught in a very unfair game, but she's also still responsible for how she played it. So what happened? How did the master of personal branding herself fall into this trap? Well, let's start with oversaturation across channels. You had the album, you had the movie, you had the documentary, all self-bankrolled by her for the princely sum of $20 million. Then you had the tour, and then you had the incredible reboot of Bennifer 2.0. I mean, who could have called that? And a media frenzy erupted. All these things created this stacking effect where exposure started compounding faster than actual interest. Because you see, in branding, visibility is really just a vanity metric. It's curiosity that's the real currency. When people stop asking what's next and start asking, when is this going to end? You've officially overdrawn your brand's bank account. Next was the trying too hard, confusing, self-indulgent moment. And just in case you're unclear, because I honestly still can't keep it straight, first there was the movie, This Is Me Now, a love story. And this was her musical cinematic odyssey, right? And it was like, what is this? Is this like a sci-fi romance action thriller? I don't know. I mean, it looked good, but it lacked substance. And then there was the whole documentary, if you can call it that, the greatest love story never told. This was the ultimate moment of brand blindness. She simply stopped reading the room and assumed that because she was obsessed with her story, everyone else would be too. And remember that Hollywood icon, the star who tried to intervene? That was Jane Fonda, a woman who knows a thing or two about surviving the spotlight. She explicitly tells Jennifer Lopez to keep the Ben Affleck relationship private to protect it. Jane saw that train wreck coming and she tried to pull the brake, but oh no, in the JLo machine, a warning from an old friend just became more behind the scenes footage. Cut to the famous scene of her sharing Ben's private love letters with her songwriters to use as inspiration for the album. And then Ben Affleck is just shown on camera standing there looking visibly uncomfortable with all of it. It was so awkward. And it also just felt really hypocritical because she claims a desire for privacy while literally selling the most intimate details of their marriage. And it really just makes you wonder, Is this real? Is this art? Is it marketing? Is it really love? Or, I don't know, is it also really just kind of business? The whole endeavor just had so much visible effort on her part, you know? So instead of feeling raw, it just felt like this over-engineered vanity project. And we love JLo because her star power felt effortless. I mean, she would just walk into a room and the air changed. But when you spend $20 million of your own money to build a monument to your own vulnerability, I mean, seriously? Come on. True authenticity is free and it cannot be manufactured. Otherwise, it's fake. And it's like she's saying, look how hard I'm working to be an artist and a wife, juggling it all for you. And why aren't you more grateful? It seems like she's the only one who really understood the vision. That's why the funding was pulled at the last minute and she ended up having to bankroll the album, the movie, and the documentary on her own. But artists can't exist in a vacuum. The audience has to ultimately realize the vision with you. And without them on board, the experience is incomplete and there's a brand disconnect. The signs were all there, but it just feels like she wasn't ready to listen to them. Now, when it comes to personal brands, you've got to respect some separation of church and state. You know what I'm saying? Like, you need to have separation of private life and public life. And we've seen this so many times with celebrities who use their personal life to fuel their celebrity, and it always blows up in their face. Sometimes with Jennifer Lopez, it just seems like, what's the point of living if it's off camera? I mean, does the world even exist for her when the camera isn't rolling? From a branding perspective, that's a fatal error. Because when there's no private version of the person, there's no scarcity for the brand. So we never have the opportunity to miss them and to keep wanting more. That brand blindness bled straight into the balance sheets. It created a massive distrust deficit. And once the audience realized the documentary was really this orchestrated spin, they brought that same exact skepticism straight to the aisles of Sephora. JLo Beauty was positioned as a premium aspirational brand, but it had a fatal authenticity problem right out of the gate. She claimed her signature glow came from a family secret: olive oil. Kind of hard to believe when olive oil is known to clog your pores. But the most damaging blow wasn't the olive oil. It was her adamant stance on Botox and fillers. To this day, she says she's never used Botox, and she says it in this kind of judgy way, like, I'm not that kind of person. Like, okay, great. What about all the other people who are that kind of person? Now listen, a woman can absolutely keep her beauty secrets to herself, but not when you have a skincare line promising those sought after secrets. So social media was like, okay, you're totally loaded. You have access to the world's greatest procedures and you're just using a kitchen pantry staple? Come on. They were not buying it. Denying using Botox just created a deep marketing conflict. And people were like, okay, you're just denying you use Botox to sell your products. And positioning her products as the sole reason for her agelessness just set this unrealistic expectation. I mean, what do you think is going to happen when people buy the overpriced $79 JLo Glow Serum and they don't get that JLo glow? They're going to feel misled and let down. And that leads to accusations of dishonest marketing, which is exactly what happened. It's the exact same misstep we saw in the documentary. Just as fans could see all the orchestration behind her raw romance, they could see the manufactured spin behind her natural glow. And this double hit of inauthenticity compounded the brand fatigue and completely eroded her fans' trust. Translation: with poor sales and low brand demand, Sephora, the premium provider of the coolest and best that beauty has to offer, pulled the plug and quietly removed her from their shelves. So what does a brand do when it loses premium shelf space? It pivots to volume. And remember that little bit I mentioned at the beginning of the video about the one currency an aspirational brand absolutely cannot survive without? Well, that currency is mystique. And as of 2026, JLo Beauty has fully transitioned into the direct response infomercial space. Think Proactive and Cindy Crawford's Meaningful Beauty. And she's now selling $59 fresh and flawless subscription kits on television. And hey, listen, auto ship subscriptions, highly profitable. But this marks the official death of her luxury positioning. Infomercials are built on urgency and mass accessibility, the exact opposite of the early genius behind the mystery of her iconic personal brand. And I just wonder, why? Like, why risk your image and your cultural relevance and everything you've worked so hard to build for cash flow when you have more money than God? And it's the ultimate proof that when a brand loses its mystique and overdraws its account of curiosity, The only thing left to sell is transaction. Now remember, this is about why JLo's brand is in crisis. And as a woman, there's a very personal, very important piece in all of this that needs to absolutely be acknowledged. But first, we got to look at why this is happening. It's happening because at its core, Jennifer Lopez is an aspirational brand. And aspirational brands, they need a little mystery. They need those edges you can't fully touch. That's part of what lets people look up. The more you try to control the narrative, the less room the audience has to project themselves into it. Then they can't buy into the fantasy, because you are not just buying a song or a movie ticket or a face serum. You are buying access to a feeling. And that's why this is such a huge branding issue. If every moment is documented and explained, you sit there wondering, do I even need to be here for this? At the end of the day, she just came off as having a deep need for attention, and it seemed like that need was driving all of her decisions, not a marketing strategy. All that access was a strategic miscalculation that diluted things and removed the contrast. With the projects and the performance and the press all shouting at the same time, the audience didn't know where to look or who to listen to. And unfortunately, I think it cost her the very things she was seeking: artistic respect and credibility. Respect takes a hit when people start feeling like they're being instructed how to experience the brand instead of invited into it. And artistic credibility starts eroding when the story around the work becomes louder than the work itself. And here's that piece that needs acknowledgement. There is a very real, very unfair and sexist part of being a female celebrity. Women in this industry can get punished so fast for any signs of visible desire. I mean, come on. Women everywhere in every industry get punished for this. If people think we want admiration too openly or we want the moment too badly, they can turn on us in a way that feels deeply gendered and incredibly ugly. And I absolutely think Jennifer Lopez suffered being on the receiving end of all of that. But two things can be true. The audience and industry can be unfair, and the brand can still overplay its hand. Ultimately, is this going to take JLo down? No, nor should it. She's very talented, wildly popular, and super successful. She's just a very visible case study for a much bigger problem. Celebrity branding is a machine that rewards constant access, constant output, constant presence. And that machine does not care whether the brand stays premium. It doesn't care if it's fair or unfair. It only cares about one thing: if the brand makes money. And that is the problem. That is the real trap. I don't think it's cool at all. I mean, we put way too much pressure on these people. It's crazy. Personal brands carry a burden that faceless brands just don't. I mean, a product can go quiet and still hold value. A person goes quiet, oh, forget it. I mean, everybody just starts asking, what happened to so-and-so? Where are they? Are they done? Are they washed up? And sometimes that pressure pushes people to burn through the very thing that made them magnetic in the first place. And they end up draining the charge right out of their star power. In a culture that pays people to stay visible and then punishes them for being everywhere all the time, the brands that survive may be the ones who are actually willing to disappear for a little while. So how does all of this apply to you? Because something tells me most of you watching aren't secretly funding a $20 million cinematic universe. But if you run a business or you're the face of your own brand, you are just as vulnerable to fall into the familiarity trap. It just looks a little different. For a founder, oversaturation doesn't look like JLo's, but it does look like desperately launching a podcast, a TikTok channel, a weekly newsletter, and 3 new services all in the same quarter. It also looks like blasting your email list 5 days a week with discounts just to force the sale because you confused constant visibility with actual demand. And remember the visible effort we talked about? For a personal brand or a small business, trying too hard looks like falling in love with your own products and your own process, instead of focusing on the very real pain your clients are in. You get so focused on yourself, your incredible course with 50 modules, your launch, your features, your brilliance, that you end up overwhelming your audience with information and marketing that just talks about how great you are. You completely lose sight of what you really need to be talking about: them, their problems, their pain, the results they're looking for so they can live a better life. It's really the business equivalent of saying, look how hard I'm working for you. Look at all of this great stuff I created. How can you not want to work with me? Sound familiar? And here is one of the hardest concepts for brands to grasp. I see this all the time, and it sounds a little harsh, but people aren't buying for you. They're buying for themselves. They're buying for a solution to their problem and what they need. And ironically, when you make the marketing entirely about your visible effort, you strip away your own magic, because instead of demonstrating you can help them because you understand their problem better than anyone else, you end up ignoring them. Making it about you only ends up repelling the very people you're trying to help instead of inviting them into your brand. So what I want to do is I want to give you a real quick way so you can audit your own brand today. And you're going to ask yourself, where are you over-explaining? Where are you forcing visibility instead of building curiosity? And then you're going to find the 1 or 2 places where your target audience spends the most time online. And if possible, narrow it down to where they're spending time in the spending mindset, as opposed to just hanging out scrolling, okay? You want them to be in that frame of mind where they're buying. And then what you want to do is focus on being exceptional there. Have the courage to go quiet everywhere else. Stripping this down is going to be the single best thing you can do for your sanity and your business. Then stop saying yes to other people's projects for exposure that isn't actually moving the needle for your business and really just helping them out. That's just a vanity metric. You got to protect your energy, protect your core offering, protect your mystique. Because when you stop exhausting your audience with constant noise, they will actually be excited when you finally have something to say. So do those things for yourself today, and I'll see you soon.